Common issues, they're not scary. A lot of these things are things that, you know, we talk about all the time, and a lot of it is giving you the information so that you know how things work. So if you run into it again, you'll know. What is scary is, oh my gosh, a reuse slide. That's scary. One of the things that we hear a lot is this idea of what status pairs are right. Everybody knows completed and passed looks good. Incomplete, unknown, maybe. Pass, failed, yeah, all of that feels reasonable. But what is actually right? Really, the answer is whatever you want it to be. In SCORM 2004, they split status into completion. Did I get to the end? And success. Did I get to, did I master a quiz, or did I master this particular piece of content? There are scenarios where you might not get completed and passed. You might get completed and unknown. In that scenario, the course might not have set a success status, and that's reasonable for a course to do. Completed, failed, also reasonable. You could have a like a certification style content that you only want them to take it once, and then if they fail it, then I'm sorry, you have to go talk to your manager. Scary conversation, maybe, I don't know. But the idea here is you have the ability to tell your content to set the statuses that you want. If they're not doing what you want, then let us know, and we can dig into why it's doing what it's doing, and hopefully either get you a fix or push you down the path with your authoring tool to say, okay, there might be a better tracking pair or a better setting within the authoring tool that can get you what you're looking for. Setting the exit type. Exit type is something we talk about almost every day. And what this is from a SCORM perspective is an indicator to the LMS about what's going to happen with the current attempt if the learner relaunches it. So really we see one of two things. It's either going to set suspend, which is suspending the current attempt, and indicates to the LMS that there's probably a bookmark, but don't get rid of any of this runtime data. We want to start where we left off, and we're going to be all good. They'll want to probably take their quiz again or whatever. And then there's the idea of setting it to normal or nothing. And what happens there? That indicates to the LMS that the attempt is over. And so file that information away. And when Joe goes to relaunch workplace harassment, start him over. And that'll be a new attempt. So really the gist here is it's either, do you want them to start where they left off? Are you going to suspend that last attempt? Or are you going to start them over? This also comes into play with a thing that I kind of toyed with talking about, which is attempt tracking, which can get kind of dicey because, well, I have an article for that too that I didn't give Cameron, so sorry about that. But you know, the thing to consider there is when you're suspending the attempt, you're still within that same attempt when you relaunch. So it's still attempt one. When you set the exit type to normal, it gives the LMS an opportunity to do some attempt tracking a little easier. Progress measure. I've already talked about this once today, and we talk about it a ton. Progress measure is the percentage complete or percentage towards completion in a SCO. And it is a very popular element right now. Like I said, we talk about it all the time. The thing about progress measure is it's only really used in a couple of standards in a way that is reportable. So as you can see on the slide with my very cute monster, there are 3 standards that will support it. One that we'll talk about, but CMI 5, SCORM 2004 4th edition, both have either an extension for progress or an actual element. SCORM 2004 4th edition has an element called CMI.progress_measure, and that will give you a scaled value of between 0 and 1. 0 being I haven't started it or haven't really done anything in it, and 1 being I'm completed. Now, SCORM 2004 third edition, it is defined in the spec, but it's not really done in a, I'm trying to think of the word, roll-upable way to actually report on it. So it's there, but it's kind of not there. So it's kind of scary. The other thing of note is reporting on this can be, well, we don't really have it in any of our canned reports. And the reason being is because it's only supported in a couple of standards. And then the other thing is your course has got to set it. So it's not anything we can kind of, magically come up with unless you are looking at a standard that maybe doesn't support it or a course that doesn't set it. And in that scenario, you'll either get a 0 or a 1, nothing in between. Mike, I'm going to answer this one because we were just talking about it. Can you use normal, exit type, and suspend if you want a user to resume where they left off? Miss you too, Mike. So yes, yeah, you can, but you want to use it with a bookmark. So setting a bookmark by location, setting it by a suspend data, you'll want to do that. But suspending plus bookmark means bookmarking. Normal will start you over. Also, I want to take note that I rarely answer questions on the fly, and I just did that for the first time. So, patting myself on the back. Another thing that is, well, it's a thing that people want to report on: interactions. Once again, I talked about this a little earlier. Interactions, SCORM for questions and answer text. They're a giant part of reporting. People want to see the questions and answers. Cam is going to post a link for this as well. There's a couple of them, I think, that I popped in there. One was a Tim Martin article from forever ago, but completely still applies. You're going to really want to think about the standards you're using so that you can get the most out of your course. SCORM 1.2 has a very, I don't want to say a minimal implementation of interactions, but you can't get the good in the full question and answer text or anything like that. You'll just get identifiers. SCORM 2004 gets you all of that information if your course sets it. So full question text, full answer text, all that stuff, it's all in there. Do you need to set interactions? No. I don't think I talk about this in this chat, but really all a course needs to do is initialize and terminate. All the stuff in between is gravy. So if your course sets interactions, that's great. If you want it to set interactions, you've got to actually tell it to do so. Let's see. Oh, a progress measure question. Progress measure is a percentage towards completion in a SCO. Oh, what is a SCO? That's a great question, Tiffany. SCO is like the basic unit of SCORM, or a shareable content object. So if you're using an authoring tool and creating your content that way, say one of the Articulate suite of products, you're always going to be pumping out what we'll call a single SCO module or a single SCO package. And so a shareable content object is just that item or that module, whether that be a learning object, whether it be a quiz, it's all a SCO. I hope that answers there. Oh, suspend data, and why is there a limit? As I learned from my good friend Anthony yesterday, nothing goes wrong with suspend data, so we shouldn't even talk about this slide. I'm fairly certain, but we probably should anyway, because it can get scary. The gist, exactly. The gist is that the suspend data is a place for a course to put its stuff. It can put whatever it wants in there. Some courses will barely touch it and not even really use it. Some courses, like some older, I would say older authoring tool style courses, might lean on it really heavily for things like interactions, even though there was a model for it, and bookmarking, even though there's an element for that. And the problem you end up running into is that some standards have a lower character limit than others. So SCORM 1.2, 4,096 characters. That seems like a lot, but if you've got a 50 question text and you're trying to pump a bunch of information into that suspend data bucket, you're going to run out of room pretty fast. Ooh, even scarier, SCORM 2004 second edition, they lowered the limit. Why? I don't know, but you have less space, which means you're going to run into the problem sooner. SCORM 2004 third and fourth edition, 64,000 characters. It should be enough. But if it's not, good news, if you're using one of our products, we do let you increase that limit to really whatever you want, 100,000, 200,000. Hopefully you're not having to go much further past that. But you do have lots of options. What could happen? What kind of a problem are would we run into? Well, like I was saying, there could be a couple things. One, bookmarking could break. If your course is leaning on suspend data to set the bookmark, it might cause problems. Interaction data could be a problem. You could run into completion problems because once you hit that limit, your course isn't going to be able to set anything new. A good indicator that you've run into this problem is that you relaunch the content instead of going back to where you left off. It could be like further into the past. Like, I already looked at that slide. Why am I back there again? Well, because you probably ran out of suspend data. I probably should have moved this one up to when I was talking about status pairs, but this is something that's come up pretty frequently. My SCORM 2004 course sets failed. So this is mainly for my friends using 3rd edition of SCORM 2004, but we run into it with 2nd edition as well. Long story short, the specifications default rollup rules say that if a course doesn't set success, so it doesn't set passed or failed, and you're using this standard, it doesn't set it at all, it's going to roll up a failed. So let's say I open a course, I go a few slides, no success gets set, which candidly, it's either going to be passed or failed. So you probably don't want it to set failed. You leave, it's going to roll up a failed. And so your status pair will look like incomplete failed. Is this right? Technically, yes. Will it confuse your learners and maybe be a bit scary? Also, probably yes. So there's a couple ways around it. Probably the easiest way is we have a SCORM 2000 override setting. We have it in the UI in SCORM Cloud. We have it is a configuration setting in Engine, and it is I believe it's a configuration setting in Content Controller, but we can probably figure that part out. But if you set it to 4th edition instead of 3rd edition, 4th edition, I hesitate to say we use the word corrected, but it amended the rollup rules to roll up unknown instead in this scenario. And incomplete unknown feels a little better from a learner perspective than incomplete failed, because you don't want your learners thinking they failed something when they haven't even taken a quiz yet.